This question's another question that comes up pretty regularly, and that is there an advantage to have your vessel owned by a corporation or an LLC as opposed to owning it in your own name? And there are a number of advantages. And in a commercial operation, we always recommend that the boat be owned by either a corporation or an LLC. Now, the difference between a corporation and an LLC is simply that a corporation is owned by stockholders. An LLC is owned by its members. Think of it as an LLC being a sort of a shorthand corporation. The safety aspect, security aspect, essentially the same. Corporation may be a pass-through entity, which means all the income, the profit, passes through to the shareholders. That's an S corporation. LLC, it all passes through to the members of the LLC. The advantages in owning a yacht or ship in a corporation. First, look at the commercial aspect. If you operate a commercial operation and you have 100 passengers on board, 100 brain surgeons, and due to your captain's stupidity, the boat catches on fire and everyone's killed, the liability is going to blow past your liability insurance in a flash. So the corporation, by being corporately owned, all the excess liability will be the liability of the corporation, not the liability of the shareholders, whether it's one shareholder or 1,000. So it gives you a firewall against liability. Same is true of an LLC. Everything properly organized, properly maintained, and you're operated as a real entity. If you operate multiple boats, and a lot of companies will have 25 offshore boats, 10 passenger boats, and so forth, we always recommend that we set up a separate LLC or corporation for each boat. That's a certain amount of expense and time to spend every year on each boat. But let's assume you have 5 passenger boats, each worth $10 million. And one of those has the fire with 100 brain surgeons on board, and the liability is $1 billion. All right, your insurance is gone. The liability stops at that corporation that owns that boat. All right, and I'll add a wrinkle to this. Ordinarily, we set up another corporation to manage and operate the boats. So the company managing and running the boat doesn't own the boat. The boat's owned separately. So that liability stops at that corporation. Your other 9 boats are protected. If you didn't set it up that way and one corporation owned everything, the liability would run through and grab all of those assets to pay for that liability. So good aspect to do that. Corporations and LLCs are easy to set up. Yeah, assuming you're a lawyer. They're set up pretty quickly. If it's a holding company, that means that the corporation does nothing but hold the title to the boat. We usually set them up in Delaware, Oregon, some easy to operate state. If you're operating the boat in, say, California or Washington or Florida, you're going to have a state corporation in that state to actually run the boat. A foreign corporation, if it's doing business in another state, can qualify there. And a lot of times we do that. But add some complexity to things, but the liability protection is good. I tell everyone your first line of protection is your insurance. You need to be heavily insured if you're running any type of commercial operation. Okay, thank you. Next question.